Hello, everyone. I was just checking I was unmuted. Hello, everyone. It's Lisa Turner here from Psycademy. And today I want to share with you some thoughts about ego, unmet needs, and attachment, and how ego has been interpreted and how people try to escape ego so that they can become more spiritual. And some of the ways that I think that people do it in a way that doesn't really help them. So let's start. So first of all, what is ego? So ego is the aspect of ourselves that is separate from source, from higher self. It's the part of us that identifies with our physical body, our physical surroundings, and with survival. Now, ego has a purpose. If we had no ego, we'd basically completely sacrifice everything to someone else or something else. So, for example, walking along, meet a hungry lion. The lion says, "Hey, I'm hungry. Can I eat you?" And you'd go, "Hey, I'm a spiritual being. I don't need my physical body. You just go and munch away." And that isn't great for keeping us here on and in the physical reality. So the ego is here for us to survive. It's here for our survival, so that we don't sacrifice ourselves to everything and anything that comes along. So when you get the ego and the higher self in balance, then where you are is you're working for the highest good of all. And a healthy ego is like, okay, this is right for me and that's right for them. So that's a win-win. Let's work with that. Let's do that. Unbalanced ego is when you go, okay, it's not for the highest good of all, but it's better for them. So I'll just sacrifice myself and I'll work myself to death and give everything I have and end up broke and unable to even support myself. Because that's actually not for the highest good of all. It's not for the highest good of you in the short or long term, and it's not for the highest good of all. Although it's often interpreted as that's sort of how spirituality is supposed to be. So let me share some thoughts with you about what ego is. So ego is any time we have an idea or a construct about who we are that we try and defend and protect. And so it might be, my ego is what I have. My possessions define me. I'm a good person because I've got a better car than them, a bigger house than them. Or I'm not as good a person because my car isn't as big, or my car isn't as good, or whatever, my house isn't as good. But it can also be the opposite. I'm a better person because I choose to have a small house and a small car and not have anything. Therefore, I'm better. That's how often spiritual ego shows up. So it's anything where we define ourselves by what we have or do not have, and that creates separation. Then we have ego is also, it's when we define ourselves by what we do. So our achievements define us. So I'm a great person because I've got a PhD in mathematics and Aero-acoustics. So that makes me better than someone who doesn't. It's like, I'm a good person because I know more, because I've achieved this. I've got a bigger business, a better business. Like, that's also ego. Or I'm a good person because I choose to reject all book learning. And we hear that as well, right? So our achievements or our choice to not achieve defines us. Another one is, I am what people think of me. So my reputation defines me. I'm a great person. I am who I am because people look up to me and respect me and admire me. So there's that validation that you get, or that people get from others. That if we define ourselves by that, that's ego. And another thing is, my body defines me. So that's a separation. I am my physical body, and I'm better or worse because I'm thinner, fitter, shorter, taller, younger, older, whatever it is. So when you have that definition that you're separate based on your body, that's ego. Then there's the idea of ego is, I'm separate from everything that's missing in my life. My life space is disconnected from my desires. Or when people say, I have no desires, and that's, because that's actually spiritual ego. So, and I do use this term, spiritual ego. And then the other one, the final one is, I'm separate from source. I'm separate from God. And my life depends on God or some higher being's assessment of my worthiness. And we see that in probably a lot of religions and things. So those are some thoughts about ego and how they define us. So One of the things I see a lot and talk to a lot of spiritual people, and they use ego. They use this lack of, or another one is, I'm really spiritual because I've got all these great abilities and I can speak to dead people and channel high level beings. That's and you can't, because I was born with the gift and you weren't born with the gift, and no one can learn the gift. And that's ego, because there's a separation. So wherever there's separation, there's ego. Now, as I said, ego has a purpose. It keeps us alive, but it also keeps us stuck and it keeps us trapped. One of the things so just recently, I've just come off a coaching call with a beautiful, beautiful woman who she has just found out she's pregnant, and she had, which we did a big release on and cleared a lot of stuff up. But she had this need to feel the love from and for her child. And there was this idea that was like, sounds great, doesn't it? So she was very anxious about her pregnancy. Now we could have worked, I could have done a prediction and like seen that her pregnancy would be fine, which, I could do that knowing that at any time something could change. But what I did was I chose to work and explore this from the idea that actually, if you have attachment to a particular outcome, whether it's the pregnancy working out in a particular way, whether it's getting a particular job, earning a specific amount of money, when you're here and you've got your future mapped out and you want something to turn out a particular way, and if you're afraid or anxious that it won't, then it's what we call an unmet need, or attachment, which is caused by an unmet need. So attachment is where you have to have it. Like, I love ice cream. That is no secret. I love ice cream. It's not a confession I need to make because it's out there. I love ice cream. My favorite ice cream is vanilla, but sometimes they don't have vanilla. Sometimes they only have chocolate. So I might go up to the ice cream stand, the ice cream shop, and I might get, wanting a vanilla ice cream, but I am totally okay if there's either no vanilla and I just might have no ice cream, or I might say, you know what? Chocolate's good too, right? There's no real attachment, yeah? Versus someone who's attached to something turning out, like they have to, get the date, get the guy, get the girl, get the house, get the job, get the car, get the bigger house, get the second wife, second husband, or whatever. Get the kids, get the new mortgage, bigger mortgage. Right? And it's like, if you've got that attachment, that is a sign of ego. And it's because somewhere or other, this is defining, and your happiness the joy you feel, there's a requirement for you to have or experience something in your life, versus I'm okay with chocolate, I'm okay with vanilla, I'm okay with no ice cream, I'm okay with no ice cream. I'm on a cleanse at the moment because I'm running a retreat in a few days' time. In fact, when you're watching this, I might be on the retreat. Hello from the future or the past, I don't know. So I haven't eaten ice cream for ages, and I am totally okay with that. Honestly, I am. I'm thinking ice cream would be good at some point. I don't want to give it up forever, but it's okay just before a retreat when I'm going to be doing lots of super spiritual stuff. And that's kind of the difference between an attachment or an addiction. So an addiction is also an unmet need. So an attachment is where you don't feel okay unless something turns out the way you want it. So what we did with this beautiful being was we worked on getting her to feel okay no matter what happened. We could have, got her to do some visualizations about it all being just fine. And it's like, well, nobody really knows. Maybe maybe for the highest good of all, it turns out differently to the way she's expecting. Maybe it turns out she gets, like quintuplets or something. And in her head, that might not be okay, right? So whatever happens, we did a release on whatever was stopping her not feel fine, so that she is just fine. Whatever happens, she's just fine. She can experience that unconditional love of source for and from herself at any time, regardless of what happens, regardless of what goes on in her life. So this is how one of the ways we let go of the need to control, because the need to control comes from I'm not okay unless things happen in a particular way, versus I'm okay whatever happens. I'm just okay. So other thoughts on what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, how to feel okay no matter what the outcome. So the way you fundamentally feel okay no matter what the outcome is, you release any attachments, which is also about releasing any unmet needs. So, which is also an addiction. So an unmet need is where, so an addiction is, all addictions are caused by unmet needs. So if you don't feel love, you might try and fill up that hole of love with food or sex or alcohol or cigarettes or drugs or video games or whatever it is. Yeah. So you try and fill that hole of not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, not having some external circumstance be as you want, not feeling okay inside. So when you have that and you feel that you have to have this thing in order to feel okay, and it kind of soothes it for a bit, but it's fundamentally still there, right? So that's an addiction. It's an attempt to meet an unmet need at the deepest level of the unconscious mind using some external substance. Sometimes it's a mind-altering kind of substance, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes, it's just, like, I don't know, just not. I'm thinking of the mind-altering ones where, like, drugs and sex and video games, they alter your mind, TV, food even. So that's one of the reasons when you are addicted, when somebody is addicted to one thing and they try and get off that one thing, they then find themselves having an addiction to something else, because what they're doing is they've still got the unmet need, and unless you address that unmet need, then there'll always be the need to have something to fill that need, because it's a need, right? And it's only a need when you experience yourself and perceive yourself as something other than whole. If you experience yourself as whole and complete, and that would mean connected to source, because source is the ultimate wholeness, right? When you experience yourself as that, that's when there is no scope for addiction. You don't need anything. You might choose vanilla ice cream to watch, some TV shows, or, you might choose that, but there's no need. So what are your thoughts on that? Did you like that? What are your questions? One of the things we do on our spiritual practitioner training is we teach people how to identify unmet needs, how to find what that is from the surface level problem, go right down to the unmet need that's deep, deep, deep in the unconscious mind, and then release it so that all the problems disappear. And a lot of coaching, it kind of works on the surface level. Oh, we'll change the behavior. No, you don't need to eat cigarettes. You don't need to smoke cigarettes. Eat them, but that's probably better for you. You don't need to smoke cigarettes, but then you end up eating something else. That's why people often overeat when they're trying to give up cigarettes. So what are your thoughts on this? Yeah. What are your thoughts on removing the root cause that releases all the surface level problems as well? What are your thoughts on that? It's one of the biggest myths in the whole personal development industry, actually, that nothing you can do, just live with it, learn to live with it, talk about it a bit more, and maybe you'll feel a bit better. In fact, talking about your problems also can become an addiction. Rather than talking about it, find the root cause, pop it, surface level disappears. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any questions, pop them in the old posty thing there. I will happily come back and answer them, and I will see you next time. Till then, lots of love. Bye for now.